Welcome to another segment of Lore You Should Know. I am Greg Tito, and I'm joined by Mr. Chris Perkins.
Hello.
Today on this segment, where we delve into a little tidbit of Dungeons & Dragons lore for fun and maybe for using in your game, we're going to talk about something that is in Eberron, Rising from the Last War, a book that is going to be in stores on November 19th. Criminal syndicates in the continent of Corvair. And we mentioned one on a previous one of these segments that had to do with some halflings.
Yes. So most of the crime syndicates that we've detailed in Eberron have centered around the city of Sharn. Mm-hmm. For good reason. Sharn is huge. It's full of people of multiple races, and there's all kinds of nefarious shenanigans that happen there.
And little tidbit, all of the music that is used in Dragon Talk is from a album around the city of Sharn that you produced.
That's correct, with music by David Davidson.
So all the bings and bongs that you hear are all from Sharn.
Exactly. Well, the music was actually meant to capture the flavor of a number of different places in Corvair. And like one of the songs is actually themed after the Lord of Blades.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay,
but it was sold. The CD was shown. The CD with the music on it originally was sold in the Sharn City of Towers source book.
Right.
From 3rd edition, packed in the back. And if you're lucky enough to find a sort of a used copy of the book, you want to check to make sure that that CD is there.
Exactly. And then you'll be transported directly into
the
criminal
world
syndicates.
Yes, and you can get all kinds of funky music. And so the criminal syndicates that we're going to talk about today, there are 4 that immediately pop up as the major ones. The first is the Boromar Clan, which we talked about before, the clan of halflings, operating in Sharn. And they have, by far, the biggest. That's the biggest criminal syndicate, probably in all of Corvair.
And is it all halflings, or is it just kind of run by halflings?
It's run by halflings.
Got it.
So they do pull in other races to help them with their various tasks, some of which are not really... Halflings have trouble pulling off sometimes. Now, it's hard to intimidate somebody if you're 40 pounds and
sure,
soaking wet and thin as a reed,
or like going to be a pit fighter. And
exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of the Boromar clan, even though they're led by halflings, do employ warforged, for instance.
Oh, interesting.
Burly dwarves and half orcs and whatever they can get their hands on. In some cases, monsters. So the Boromar clan is a family-run criminal syndicate that specializes in non-violent crime, mostly blackmail and extortion, theft, and that kind of thing. Fraud. They rarely engage in something as bloody as murder or as indiscriminately violent as arson, and they're not terrorists. This is basically Sharn's mob.
Okay.
They take good care of their own. They took good care of those who are loyal to them. And they operate through a number of legitimate business interests, not only in the city, but abroad. Although Sharn really is their bread and butter, and that's where the heads of the family reside. Mm-hmm. The leader of this clan is the halfling godfather, a man named Sedan Boromar, who is as lovable as any halfling you could possibly meet. A very caring man with a very large family who's dedicated not only to his family but to the continuation of this thing that he's created.
And did it start with him? Was he the founder of it?
Yeah.
And he is a lover of food and drink, just like all halflings?
Yes, he is. He loves all the good stuff, and a lot of his fronts, a lot of his legitimate businesses are public places that one would want to visit because of the entertainment value that they provide, be it gambling halls and fest halls to feast halls. And, they also own warehouses so that people have to pay money to store things in, and they're very secure, obviously. Probably the most secure of any warehouses you can get. They offer sellswords for if you need somebody to walk you to work, in the cogs, because it's dangerous and you might get killed. You can go to the Boromar Clan and they'll hook you up with a bodyguard.
Oh, okay. That's nice of them.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
For a price?
For a very modest price.
Oh, really? They're not.
They don't go out of the. They don't. If you get behind on your payment, or if you're unable to pay and you have to deal with their loan sharks, things can get a little messy and dicey. But if you have the money to pay, they are good people to work with.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
It sounds like they don't want to hurt anyone.
No, they really go out of their way not to. I think where things get messy is when there's conflict with others who are encroaching upon what they consider to be their territory.
I see.
Other criminal syndicates trying to hedge them out. That's when things can get messy.
Would you say that the head, what was his name? Sedan?
Sedan. Yeah.
Is he like a chaotic good type of alignment?
That's a good question. I think we actually note that in the book. I don't remember off the top of my head. I can't remember. I think he might be true neutral.
True neutral.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of odd for a halfling.
A little bit. And part of that rationale, I think, is because even though they're engaged in everything from petty crime to extortion and other sort of non-violent forms of criminal activity and pressure, they also have bought, for the most part, the Sharn watch.
Oh. They've got the police in their pockets.
Yeah. And so once you start getting in that, it really becomes shades of gray.
Yeah.
And so you can't really say he's good. He's not evil, but not good.
Got it.
And so anybody who lives in Sharn kind of knows. If they're not at all, if they're just completely clueless, they wouldn't. But if you've lived in Sharn for some time, you know that the City Watch is corrupt. You know that the representative or person you're talking to has probably been bought and paid for by the Boromar Clan. Which is why if somebody comes up and starts to stir up trouble with the Boromar Clan, it's usually the Sharn Watch that comes down on them first.
Ooh, okay, interesting. Yeah. How did this grow during the last war? I assume. It was kind of
it sort of came out of that, like all criminal syndicates, the Boromar Clan took advantage of the thing that happens when people become polarized against one another, and start to let fear rule their lives. They come in and say, "You don't have to be afraid. We will protect you. We will take care of you. Everything will be all right. We'll get through this together." And the next thing you know, you're paying them money, and your daughter is getting married to someone in the Boromar Clan, and so ties are being established that can't be broken, and there's just no escape at that point.
And there's newspaper writers coming to your wedding, and you throw it down and throw some money at them.
Exactly. Yes. And then some Boromar person will come to you with blood covering his neck and face and say, "I need you to hide me for 3 days." Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and suddenly you are in something that you didn't expect.
All right. Well, there's like 4 or 5 different adventure hooks right there.
Exactly.
All right. So what are some of the other criminal syndicates in Corvair?
Glad you asked. Another good one is Daask. Daask.
Daask. Daask is good.
Daask is not good.
Daask is evil.
So there is a nation that is west of Sharn, west of Breland, called Droam. It is not recognized by the Treaty of Thronehold, and the reason it wasn't recognized after the last war, is because it's basically a nation of monsters under the thrall of a trio of hags.
Interesting.
So Daask was born out of Droam. What it is it is a coalition operating in Sharn of monsters of Droam. Bugbears, gnolls, harpies, minotaurs, gargoyles, just a hodgepodge of crazy-ass monsters that are intelligent, that have basically taken root in Sharn and have created a criminal organization, all of which Daask's goal is to basically hedge out all the criminal organizations that are competing against them and to feed information and money and secrets and anything else they think get their hands on to the daughters of Sorakel, the hags of Droam who rule their country. Okay. So they are an example of an external arm of a country operating in a foreign nation to the betterment of that country.
Interesting. Okay.
It would be like Ukrainian mobsters operating out of New York. Okay.
Topical.
Yeah. And so their ties are back in another nation,
Right.
but they're conducting their criminal enterprises in this foreign soil.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
And because they're monsters, their ethics and morals are all screwed up. And so they really don't have any compunction about murdering people if those people get in the way of their goals.
One less human to deal with.
Exactly. And but there's enough intelligent masterminding behind Daask and enough disorganization that it's hard to take out the entire organization or know even what its members or bounds are. Mm-hmm. Because you might have a cell of Daask over here operating under a knoll, say, which is just basically abducting people, prying the secrets out of their head, and then killing them, and throwing their corpses in a furnace somewhere. And then there might be another arm of Daask over here doing something completely different. Maybe it's run by an Oni or somebody else that's doing its own thing. And those two arms may never actually interact. Or somebody from one of the sisters of Sorakel might say, okay, you guys, I need you to both work together to do this thing. Oh, right. In which case they might then come together and you got this monster mash.
Halloween is the time for a monster mash.
You did the mash.
So how do they communicate with the Daughters of Sorakel? Is there some kind of a magical link?
Yeah, there's one of the daughters can send out essentially communiques through dreams.
Oh.
And so
I guess as a hag, that's a benefit to being.
So a lot of the messages they get are through essentially creepy hag dreams.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
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 terrible.
Yes.
So good adversaries, I guess. If you're
yes, and the great thing about them is you can just kind of fling a bunch of evil monsters together and say Daask, and off you go.
Right, but then you can almost piece together afterwards why they were doing it, or the players can try to do that.
Yes, and you suddenly realize, oh well, the reason why this Minotaur is working with this Gnoll and this Gargoyle is because they're all part of the same root problem, and that root problem isn't something we can kill because it's way the hell over here in this other country.
Interesting.
So that's kind of scary.
Does Daask, is it an acronym or
no? It's just a weird word.
Just a weird word.
Yeah,
got it. Okay, that makes it even funnier because you're well, not funnier, but
more
mysterious. You're like, what is Daask?
There may be a translation of Daask in Keith's mind. I can't remember. I don't remember. Or never knew.
All right. Well, I'm going to send him a hag dream and see if he can.
Please
hear it. All right. What's the third?
A third one to call attention to is House Tarkanan. They operate out of Sharn, but they also have representatives elsewhere. Mm-hmm. There is, as you know, there are dragon marks in Eberron, and they figure prominently in Corvair. And the dragon marked houses, of which there are 12, have basically carved out their own monopolies based on what the magic of their dragon mark can let them do. Mm-hmm. Well, it turns out there are also things in Eberron called aberrant dragon marks, and people don't really know exactly how they come to be. There's some suspect that the Dalekir, these weird far realmsian Zoriashian creatures, create them or foster them or spread them or whatever. But basically there are weird dragon marks. The dragon marked houses don't generally want them around. Nobody wants them around because these aberrant dragon marks let people do things that are usually kind of bad. House Tarkanan is this house, this dragon-marked house, made up of aberrant dragon-marked individuals and others who are trying to protect them.
Okay.
And their goal is basically to protect these aberrant dragon marks. If they hear that somebody has been born with one or somebody suddenly has manifested one, they will go out into Corvair, fetch that person, and offer them protection and bring them back into the fold as a member or as a protectee of the house. And in the course of doing this, of course, they get into all sorts of conflicts and stuff like that. But the other thing House Tarkanan does is, like all criminal syndicates, in order to finance these activities that they do, the searching for the aberrant dragon marks, the protecting of the aberrant dragon marks, the taking out of anybody who threatens these individuals, and sometimes those individuals are kings and queens. They need financing, and they get it through all sorts of criminal activities.
Do they use the aberrant dragon marked powers in order to
whenever they can
fuel their operations?
Yes,
that makes a lot of sense. All right, so it almost feels like supervillains.
They are, and one of the reasons they feel like supervillains is because of their magical abilities and because the Aberrant Dragon Mark is flexible enough as a DM that you can have it do weird things and scale it up accordingly. Like if you say, okay, my adventure is going to be built around a person who has manifested an Aberrant Dragon Mark that lets them look like anybody they want to, like changeling style.
Yeah.
Then that person is very dangerous in a political campaign because they could replace, captains of the guard. They could replace sovereigns. They can replace anybody.
Yeah, it's a Manchurian candidate.
Exactly.
Type of thing.
And that Manchurian candidate story fits so neatly into an Eberron pulp noir kind of setting.
Absolutely.
That the story possibilities are ripe.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then it's up. DMs can kind of make up whatever Aberrant Dragon Mark power could be.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and you mentioned they kind of tend toward being horrible.
Generally speaking, yes. Sometimes it may not seem like the mark can be misused, but if these guys can find a way to misuse it, they will. They absolutely will.
It's right there, that idea, like, the Invisible Man is
exactly.
All right, yeah, no, you just turn invisible, but like, what could you do
Precisely.
if there's no one can see you? All
Yes.
of a sudden, yeah.
Yes.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Is there a leader? Is there someone who's guiding the goals of what this group is doing?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me just check my notes here. There is somebody who's leading that organization currently, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head. But she is in the book that we're talking about, this Rising from the Last War. Let's see if I can just find her name quickly.
I would assume that they also have a Aberrant Dragon Mark on their own, and that's...
I honestly don't think she has one.
Oh, interesting.
Thora, that's her name.
Thora
Tarkanan. So she might or she might not. Good old Thora.
I love you, Thora.
Yep.
Don't hurt me.
Can't find it in my notes.
Don't turn invisible and kill me.
Can't find it in my notes, but she's kind of leading things these days. She is the leader of House Tarkanan, and she's super not nice.
So their whole goal, or her whole goal, is just to meet new and find new members of and bring them into the fold, as you said. And that fold is generally in Sharn.
Yes.
Do they have like a house
they base themselves out of Sharn. They don't. They're not acknowledged as a legitimate dragon marked house, even though they've gone as far as to create a lot of the same iconography that other dragon marked houses use and stuff like that. Their symbol, by the way, is a beholder.
Interesting.
Yes.
Are they like their aberrations? They're kind of
exactly.
grabbing a hold of that as their interesting.
Yeah.
All right, neat. There's another.
The other organization I was going
organization.
to talk about sort of goes well beyond Sharn, because the first three I talked about are very Sharn specific, and there are other Sharn specific ones that I could talk about. There's an organization of changelings in Sharn that's very spooky and interesting because they can all look like somebody else.
Yeah.
But I want to do really kind of talk about the Aurum.
Aurum.
Yes, Aurum.
Aurum.
Because they are a Corvair-wide organization, and they are kind of like, in a way, like the stonemasons. They kind of put up a front of legitimacy in a way, but you sort of get the sense that there's something going on at the surface. It's almost got a secret society feel under there. If you're in, you're in.
Right. So the eye on the pyramid.
Exactly. So the Aurum is like a secretive, members-only social club, and its members. Its highest-ranking members are in very powerful positions in various governments and other organizations across all of Corvair, and are seen as not only engaging in criminal conspiracies on a continental scale, but are also involved in the manipulation of events of the last war, may have had a hand in things, in some of the dramatic turns of events during the last war, but we don't know for sure. Because
they're so secretive.
They're so secretive, and anybody who comes forward with information disappears or dies both very quickly. And so,
it seems like they're playing on that conspiracy theory type.
Exactly.
Of
this sort of it's bigger than all of us. Yeah. Kind of deal. But it really boils down to wealth. So not to draw too many parallels to the modern day, but the oligarchies that are sort of sprouting up now, and governments who are in the pockets of these wealth hoarders, that's very much kind of what the Aurum is all about. It's like, we are the responsible ones. We are the ones who should chart the future of this world. The only way we can do that is if we control the flow of money, and we control the flow of information, and we control the flow of everything.
And that's why they're in every single
Exactly,
city.
yes. And so they're trying to make inroads whenever they can, but unlike, say, a dragon-marked house, which has all this magic of the dragon marks to power them, a lot of them are just normal individuals who don't have any special ability to do what they're doing other than the fact that they have money.
I see. So it's like
Yes.
The actual Syndicate from the X-Files.
Yes.
Right?
That is a really good analogy. Yeah, exactly.
They have money. They don't have any special thing. They
Yes.
just have the ability to mess with things on a grand scale.
Yes. And the way that they differentiate themselves, so members of the Aurum are called Concordians, and the way that because the Aurum Concord is actually the full name, but the way that they distinguish themselves is they identify with different levels. So you graduate up through levels of the Aurum until you hit like the Gold Concord. And once you're up to that level, you are calling the shots. You are in the room with the 3 or 4 other individuals who basically are the bigwigs of the organization.
So it's also got like a Scientology feel to it as well.
Bit, yeah. So you're in the
gotta
Copper
pay in to get
Concord,
higher.
and now you got to pay to get into the Silver Concord, and then you have to pay to get into the Gold Concord, and probably have to take out a few Aurum Concordians in order to get there. And not directly, of course, because you never want to be implicated in the deaths of your peers.
Of course not.
But if they die and you get noticed and elevated to their position, that's so much the better.
Well, all 4 of these organizations feel like great adversaries for the player characters in any kind of campaign you set.
And
in
it really
Eberron.
sort of they're sort of calibrated at different levels so that you get the kind of criminal organization enemy that you want. From the world-spanning syndicate of the Aurum right down to just the petty monsters murdering you for some hag's benefit, to the more erudite and astute Boromar Clan. You've got quite a range to play with there.
And then if you're a roguey type character or someone who would be involved in these type of syndicates, you've got a large number to play with.
And some of them lend themselves better to having characters as members than other. The Boromar is legitimate enough that you could imagine your character being associated with the clan and still be good aligned.
Yeah.
It gets a little bit dicier once you get to Daask. And you're like, why am I hanging out with this Minotaur? I don't know.
Right, but then you could also be
Keeps pulling people's heads off.
A former member of Daask that's a reformed.
Yes, exactly. You certainly could.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Who's rebelling against, and same with the Aurum or anything like that.
Yes.
Like, okay.
And if you're a character who has a secret about the Aurum, that could fuel an entire campaign, as Aurum operatives are basically trying to take you out.
Oh yeah. I love having a whole X-Files type of campaign now in Eberron that's trying to find out who's calling the shots.
Right.
Who, maybe that group, the Concordians, were the ones who were behind the Moorlands.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Follow the money.
Yeah. Exactly. Seems to make sense. I want to ask so many more follow-up questions, but I think we're running out of time, as we always do on these Lore You Should Know. So perhaps we'll delve in more, or you can just find out more when Eberron, Rising from the Last War, comes out on November 19th.
Yes.
Or you can ask Chris Perkins on Twitter.
Yes.
At Chris Perkins DND.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start saying it now rather than making you do it.
Yes.
Of course.
If you want to know about my criminal past, ask me on Twitter.
Ask him about his favorite X-Files episode.
Oh, I have a few, but there's definitely one favorite. Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll delve into that.
Do you want to know what it is?
What is it?
Jose Chung's From Outer Space.
I don't remember that one.
From season 3. It's the trippy one with Charles Nelson Riley.
Oh.
Which sort of is a point of view thing.
Nice.
Where he's interviewing, he's writing a book called From Outer Space, and he's interviewing Scully about a case.
Oh, I'm remembering this now.
Yes.
I think that might have been one of the my earliest ones. I haven't rewatched it
It's
since
the one
it
with
came out.
Jesse Ventura and Alex Trebek as Man in Black.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well,
my second favorite episode is Home, which is just messed up. That's about the Peacock family, which are inbred Pennsylvanians.
Yeah. One of the Monster of the Week ones.
Yeah. Really creepy.
All right. Well, now everyone go watch all of the X-Files up until season 5, and then get Eberron and use all of that in that book. Excellent. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back with some more lore on Eberron and other things to come. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, as always, sir.
Yep.
Very good stuff. We are going to throw this now to Binwin Plays.
Yes.
They are ready to jump into a very classic old game, if I'm remembering correctly. Eye of the Beholder.
Holy smokes.
Very old. I can't
Yeah.
wait to see Scott and Corey jump in. So without further ado, go watch them. Thanks, Chris. Bye.